Hello everyone, Linda Israel here, and I have the new stamp release for Brutus Monroe that releases releases on Friday. The video you'll see on Saturday. This particular stamp set is called Dream Catcher, and I've decided I'm going to use a couple of these stamps on the front of a traveler's notebook. So I have a few pieces of paper laid out here that I think I want to use. The first thing that I'm going to do is stamp my images on this piece of paper. I'll get my words out. So I've got my Misty and I have it preloaded with the stamps that I want to use. So I've got my little piece of paper that I've cut to fit on the front of my traveler's notebook. So I'm going to kind of put some magnets on here to keep this in place. I'm going to ink it up with my Brutus Monroe Detail Ink in Raven. What I like about my Misty is sometimes when stamps are brand new, you can't get very good ink coverage on them, but with the Misty, I can stamp it more than once if necessary. And since it doesn't move, it gets it perfect placement each time. It's also handy if you want to do a bunch of these. Just cut all your paper the same size, just pop it in there, stamp and go, stamp and go. So this would be great for a bunch of cards if you want to make a bunch of cards to send to someone to tell them to think and dream big. I'm going to color my images with some chameleon markers. I love the way that these blend and give a beautiful color. So I've got a couple of the color change cartridges and then my pens here. If you need to know the actual names of them, we have, let me get it where I can see it. Seville Orange, Mellow Yellow, Warm Sunset, and then on the cartridges I have Tangerine, let me turn it around so you can see it, and Cinnamon. What I like about these is that you can add that color cartridge to it and it just adds a little bit of color and makes it really pretty to blend with. So what I'm going to do is I've got, I'm trying to see which one I want to use. I think I want to use Warm Sunset and Tangerine. So I load this up by holding the color cartridge on top and then my other pen on the bottom. So I've got two different colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. I think that'll be good. I'm going to use this color to give a little color to the feathers on the Dreamcatcher. I'm going to change colors and go to a lighter yellow. So I have the lighter yellow and I'm going to use that with my color change cartridge again. I'm going to color in the fox. So I'm going to use the cinnamon and the Seville orange together. And now I'm going to add a little bit of, I've decided, I'm going to add a little bit of mellow yellow. Because you can add multiple colors if you want. I'm giving a little bit of the colorless to the Warm Sunset because I want a lighter color. I've got my colorless blender. I'm just going to go right around the edge where it kind of went outside the line a little bit, and it will help push it back where it should go. I've got a warm gray, and I'm just going to give a little bit of shadow. Alright, I've got my image colored the way I want, and I've got some Brutus Monroe Surface ink. I have the Jack-o'-lantern and Zest, so I'm going to take the Jack-o'-lantern and a blending sponge and go around the edge of this card piece. Now I'm going to use the Zest and go right over that, kind of blend up a little bit. I've got some tulip glitter paint here, and I found that this works really well. It's a cheaper alternative to Stickles, and you get a great big jar of it. So I'm just going to put a little bit on this Dreamcatcher and maybe on the fox. I'm going to set this aside to dry while I work on the cover. So I'm making a traveler's notebook, and I've got a piece of yellow cardstock from Canvas Corp. It's called Yellow and White Dot Reverse, and so I'm going to cut this to be 8.5 inches tall. Excuse me, 8.25 inches tall. That's a standard size traveler's notebook. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the header piece of information on what's left on the scrap. And then I'll cut this into 3-inch pieces, and these will become journaling cards. Now on this piece of paper, I can do one of two things. I can cut it to be 8.5 inches, or I can score at the 8.5 inch mark, and then I'll have a little flip out for my journal cover. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to score that at the 8.5 inch mark. And then I'm going to score it again at the 4.25 inch mark. And then I will fold this and use my bone folder to get a nice crisp edge. So I fold this in, make sure it's all lined up, use my bone folder, fold this one over, line it all up, and press. So this is going to be my inside cover. And what I'm going to do is decorate on this portion here. I've got a few scraps of paper here that I want to use on my cover. This is a piece of corrugated cardboard that just so happens to be yellow that I found in my stash. I've got a page out of a really cheap Bible, and I thought that would look kind of cool on here. Then I have this really neat fiber paper that I just had a little scrap of, and I've had it forever. Then I've got a little piece of yellow here, or excuse me, Italian paper. And then I've got this orange piece that I think I want to put this on top of. So I'm going to go ahead and start adhering this yellow piece to my card. Or excuse me, I'm thinking card because I make so many cards, but this is a traveler's notebook. I've been doing Junk Journal July. Every day for the month of July, I have made some kind of junk journal. A junk journal is basically a journal, but instead of making it with just traditional purchased papers made for journaling, you use whatever junk that you might have. So thus the piece of paper from an old book. And then the inside pages can be a plethora of things. They could be map pages, coloring book pages, dictionary pages, book pages, all kinds of things. There's really no right or wrong way. You can also use scrapbooking paper. Just mix it up and have fun with it. I've got a little bit of black washi tape, and I thought that might be a nice little touch to add. So I'm just going to tear a couple pieces off. The glitter glue is almost dry, so I'm going to use my heat tool to finish off that drying time. I want this orange piece to have a little darker hue to it, so I've got some Distress ink by Tim Holtz. This one is called Vintage Photo. So I'm just going to go around this edge real quick like. I decided that I wanted to go around the perimeter of the journal because I wanted to have a little bit of a distressed look, not brand spanking new, but you can still see the bright yellow. I'm going to layer these together. Since this fiber paper is really thick, I don't want it to have a huge gap, so I'm going to use some adhesive dots on the top part of this so that it doesn't match in the other way. So this way it'll have a little bit more of a blended look to it. Alright, so here are my pages that I want to put inside. I've got some scrapbook paper and other things. So I'm going to start with this paper. It's just a real pretty floral paper that I thought, well, it'll go well with that. And then I have a page out of a dictionary that I've made a pocket at the bottom. I folded it up and just sewed down the sides. I've got some paper that has lines on it. This was just paper in my stash. This is a Japanese paper that has a real pretty image on it, and it's got a nice texture on the inside. I've got a piece of graph paper. Oh, I forgot to sew it. So what I do is I go to my sewing machine and I will sew down these two sides. And I've got this kind of an orange striped, maybe a sherbet color. This is mulberry paper. Here's another unusual page probably. It's a map that isn't any good. It's way out of dated, and they were going to throw them away, and I took it. And then here's another piece of scrapbook paper in the center. So I've got 10 sheets of paper of various types here, and that's going to make the inside of my journal. That will make 40 surfaces when you count 1, 2, 3, 4 each page. I've got these giant paper clips, and what I'm going to do is clip the journal on the sides so that it doesn't shift on me while I'm punching the holes down the center. I have a template that I use for my journals. What I do is measure how big my journal is, and then I fold it in half and mark it, and that's where I'm going to place a hole. And then I go about an inch to inch and a half from the ends and mark it and punch a hole on either end. You can even fold them like that so you can get both of them at the same time, so you know that you're getting an even spacing. And I'm going to put that inside the crease here, and then I will poke a hole. So I use a bookbinder's cradle, but you can use other things. One of my friends, Rachel Reed, shared tonight how to use an old phone book. Just open up the phone book and roll back the pages, and then this will fit right down into the crease. I don't even have a phone book, so I'm going to use my cradle. So I just place it in there, make sure that it's in the center. I use an awl. I'm going to poke a hole in the center and on both ends. So there are my holes that are poked down through the center of the spine of the book. I have a bookbinder's needle. It's a heavier needle. It has a smaller eye than a yarn needle, and it's perfect for bookbinding. Now I've got wax linen thread, and what I like to do is count 1, 2, and 3, just so I have plenty to thread and sew with. And I start in the center on the inside and poke through to the outside, leave a little tail, and then I'll go up to the top on the outside and poke through to the inside. I'll go down to the center on the inside and around from the outside back to the inside. This is called a pamphlet stitch. When I get to this point, I like to slip the thread up by this other first thread, and then I like to pull these in the opposite direction to get them tight at the top and the bottom and in the back. And then I tie 2 square knots, 1 and 2. And I trim those off. Now, I like to make mine a little more whimsical, if you will, so I punch shapes, in this case a butterfly shape, and I've got stuff on my finger, butterfly shape, and I'm going to apply just a little bit of this glue on here. I'm going to take one of the strings and place it where the body of the butterfly is, and I'm going to sandwich it on the other. Now I kind of spread that glue around using the string so it was even and will adhere all the way, and I just kind of lightly press it until I feel that it's stuck together. I'm going to do this on the other one. These little cards that I cut up earlier, I can leave them just as they are, or I'll take the stack of them and I will use my crocodile corner rounder and round the corners. I found that I can even do 4 of them at a time. So those are all nice and neat, and they almost look like you bought them that way. And I find the pockets and just stick a couple here and there. And then that way you have more places to write. The last thing that I'm going to do is put a tie on here so that when it is not in a traveler's notebook cover, as this is an insert, I can tie it shut. So I slip it through the binding on the outside, and then I just pick a length of it and I'll tie it into a bow. So that's ready to go. There's my quick little traveler's notebook using the Dream Catchers image from Brutus Monroe. It's the new stamp release. I used the chameleon pens to color it, the Brutus Monroe ink around the outside, some canvas court paper, and then some other random papers. And then here is the journal. It's ready to go. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe, comment, leave me a message what you thought about this. Who would you give this journal to? If you're interested, I have a Facebook group called the Friendly Junk Journal People, and you're welcome to join that. Brutus Monroe also has a Brutus Monroe fan club, so that link will be in my blog post if you want to check that out as well. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a fabulous day. Bye. Dream big.